Chapter 7 is the climax of the temple building story, which began back in 1 Chronicles 21, though David first conceived the project in chapter 17. There are several emphases here. The first is the acceptance of the sacrifice, which confirms the Lord's acceptance of the temple as a place of worship and mercy. The glory of the Lord had already entered the temple in a cloud at the end of chapter 5, when the ark was installed. But now fire descends from heaven and consumes the sacrifices. We have recently seen fire from heaven in the ministry of Elijah. The famous confrontation with the Baal cult was one example, where fire also consumed a sacrifice. There, the implication was not so much the acceptance, but the proof of the reality of God. The other occasion was when batches of soldiers were sent to arrest Elijah, and fire from heaven consumed them. The message then was about Elijah's holiness as the chosen representative of God. When we get to Revelation 13, this specific sign is used by the beast which comes from the earth, whose role is to cause people to worship the beast from the sea. One of his methods is deception, and so he fakes the classic signal from God that God is real and present, and then applies it to the beast. But here in 2 Chronicles 7, the spectacle of the fire links this moment with the completion and dedication of the tabernacle, where precisely the same thing happened with Moses and Aaron. The completion of the tabernacle is in Exodus 40, where at the end of the book, the glory of the Lord fills the tent so that they could not enter it. This is parallel to 2 Chronicles 5, but the scene in chapter 7 is parallel to Leviticus 9, where the sacrifices are offered, the Lord responds with fire, and all the people see it and fall on their faces. Thus the implication is that this temple truly is the replacement of the tabernacle and demonstrates continuity with the beginnings of the proper worship of God, with the clear signs of his presence and acceptance. Like in Leviticus 9, the people are there to witness this, which is important in both cases, but here in these latter days of so much destruction and loss, the chronicler emphasizes the unity of the people and their joy together as they celebrate and respond in worship. In verse 3, all the people of the Lord saw the fire, and in verse 4, the king and all the people offered sacrifice before the Lord. In verse 5, the king and all the people dedicated the house of God. And at the end of verse 6, which described the arrangement of the Levitical musicians, we have, and all Israel stood. The purpose of the unity of the people here is not only a great memory for Israel, but it also serves a purpose as it anticipates the development of a rival sanctuary in the north, whose construction is designed to harden the separation which will occur under Solomon's son and prevent reunification. In a sense, this scene is like Jesus' words about divorce. It was not that way in the beginning. Another interesting difference in the chronicler's presentation, compared with that of 1 Kings 8, has to do with time. Verse 65 of that chapter says that the festival lasted 7 days, and the following verse states that he dismissed the people on the 8th day. The problem with this, which the chronicler wishes to clarify, is that 2 major festivals, the Day of Atonement and Tabernacles, seem not to have been celebrated. In his account, then, he makes it clear that Tabernacles was indeed celebrated, but after the 7 days given to the dedication of the temple. And according to Levitical law, Solomon holds the solemn convocation on the 8th day after the tabernacle festival, and then dismisses them on the 9th. It is still to be noted that the Day of Atonement has not been observed. Tabernacles would have begun on the 15th and lasted till the 21st, with the convocation on the 22nd, and the dedicatory festival was before this, from the 8th to the 14th. Yom Kippur is observed on the 10th. In the Talmud, the rabbis concluded it was not observed that year because of the special circumstances. But these are not mere technicalities. The chronicler probably balked at the idea that either Solomon did not celebrate tabernacles, or that he ignored the Levitical instruction to hold a convocation on the 8th day, instead sending them all home. Because the chronicler wants to emphasize the correctness of Solomon's behavior in all these matters, it is important to make the ambiguous earlier text of 1 Kings 8 much more clear. A summary is given in 8:12-15, which shows how Solomon personally expressed his love and obedience in the prescribed daily offerings, and how he fulfilled the instructions given to him to order the duties and services of the priests and Levites. In turn, as verse 15 concludes, they do not fail on any matter whatsoever. The title Man of God, which is given to David in verse 14, links him to Moses, who is also given that title, as one who is a prophet and who organizes the worship of God. Thus it was vital to carry out such commands. Otherwise, chapter 8 presents some activities of Solomon which occurred during the construction of the temple. Mention is made of the corvée labour which Solomon used for his building projects, where non-Israelites were, for certain periods of time, conscripted into service. Mention also is made of Pharaoh's daughter being built a house, so she does not reside in any of the places to which the ark has come. This explanation is an addition by the chronicler, not found in 1 Kings. It shows a special sensitivity of Solomon to the holiness of these places, though it is not made clear why his wife is unsuitable. Presumably it is because she is foreign. One would expect then that Solomon's numerous foreign wives, who caused him to sin, would clash with this refined presentation of the chroniclers, but they and their deleterious effects are deleted from his account. As always, we find surprises in the choices the chronicler has made in his telling, but it is important for us to appreciate through them the emphases and meanings he wishes to convey. Like David, Solomon has had his greatest sins erased, but they were probably well known. Here the chronicler wants us to appreciate the best of Solomon and to learn from his sense of duty and devotion, together with his keen reverence for the holy transcendence of God.